All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mashpee School Committee meeting of January 19, 2019. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is public comment, and we do not have any public comment tonight, so we'll move right along to the FY20 budget. And this time I'm going to hand it over to Superintendent.
And working group can add to this as well. So in the packet you have really the first three pieces in the packet are related to this topic. So for my recommended budget for FY20 has been adjusted from the previous version that you have seen. And Mr. Funk and I met with the town manager and assistant town manager last Thursday to sort of make sure we were all on the same page. You can see that the amount that we're recommending to offset with school choice funds is now at $538,865. If you look on the second sheet, you'll see where that number is derived from, and the important piece is that I'm recommending that the committee adopt a $250,000 school choice fund floor, and that is also what we communicated with the town manager as well, knowing that in any given year, depending on the number of students we have choicing in and also on how our expenditures go, beyond that, there could be a time in an emergency we'd have to dip into the floor, and then the next year we'd have to replenish into that floor. But it would be reassessed at every year. So with that information given to the town manager and his previous request, which was quite a bit higher, we settled on the gap was about $135,000 between where I was and where he would like us to be. He came back and said that the town side could do $125,000 of that, leaving us with an $11,135 piece to contribute. So you'll see up above in the yellow that we are taking $11,135 out of school choice. So with all of the adjustments, our level service budget for FY20 comes to $22,715,784. With the offset that I'm recommending from school choice funds of $538,865, it comes down to $22,176,919 as the requested appropriation from the town. And this is a number, the bottom line figure is the number that that the town manager is supporting.
That 11,000 is not coming out of school choice, right? It's coming out of...
No, it's coming out of district tuition. And then the only other piece that you have is sort of an updated budget narrative that takes into account all of my new numbers. If this becomes the school committee's budget, we will have a narrative that has been adjusted, and we'll show it as the school committee narrative based on whatever your vote is. So Finance Working Group, would you want to add anything?
We had a meeting prior to your meeting with the town manager. The town manager's budget request, the amount that he wanted us to come forward with was more than we were going to receive from school choice funds next year, anticipated income from school choice funds. We had a discussion and agreed to at the Finance Working Group of having a floor of $250,000. I know the school committee has talked about this. We've never really voted on a number, and I think that that is something that is indicative that we should do at some point in time, probably this evening if we accept this budget, of saying that we wish to maintain a $250,000 floor in the fund carrying forward from each year. The town is aware now of how we budget this, that we use next year's funds in the following year, that type of thing. All of that's been gone over with.
George, or can I, while you're thinking for a second, can I just, on your,
Thank
on your
you.
comment about the floor and voting,
Mhm.
obviously, we don't have it on the agenda, so we can't vote for it. But the other thing is with the comment that was communicated to the town about, you know, that school choice obviously is a fluid thing and is gonna change year to year,
Yes.
and potentially drastically. I personally would think, and it's something that the committee might want to consider, is to just kind of include the floor in the budget year to year, because that floor also may become something we may need to increase or could potentially decrease, whichever way we need to go, year over year, rather than voting separately on a floor and then on the budget. I think, in my opinion, we should just every year include it in whatever our budget is with a floor, a mentioned floor.
With the understanding that the school committee, when we come up to doing next year's budget, which we're already in the process of doing in the following fiscal year's
Mhm.
budget, we're using that $250,000 number
Of course,
as
but
a
that's
starter.
yes,
Okay?
yes.
Go
What, I'm sorry,
ahead, sorry.
what's the rationale for 250,000?
Good question.
We talked about it at the working group of some of the potentials that you would want to make sure you were able to cover. One of them, predominantly it lands in the out-of-district category as a worrisome area. And basically, Paul had said you can have one at certain placements that is $250,000 that you might not have in your budget because they moved in.
Do we have any currently at that level?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. More than one. Well, we'll have one next year. We have two now that are close to that. I don't want to say it's
And we'll have an additional one next year. So we'll have three?
possibly. No, we'd have
No,
one.
we just
One
want-
is aging out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just want to,
Can I
Please.
just speak to the 250,000? That was, I think the working group kind of came up with that floor, and I think it's been even possibly discussed at previous school committee meetings. Maybe I'm getting my meetings mixed up. But we kind of arrived at that 250,000. We thought that would be a sufficient figure if something came up to handle. And, you know, during this budget processing, the town manager has been quoting the law on school choice, that it's supposed to be, if you're taking school choice students in, it's supposed to be used to offset your
Can I
budget.
clarify,
because of-
it is not supposed to be used, it can be used
Can be
to
used,
offset
yeah,
others.
it can be used. So he's kind of presented that. And in the past, we've been using it because we weren't getting CIP money. So, you know, you try to look at it, it's a two-way street here. We did get that money this year, and I think CIP had gotten a larger amount of money this year than they have in past years, and that's how they could fund it. And I just feel the working group came up with that $250,000 figure, and I think that is a good, stable figure. Now, what happens, you know, and if you go right down through this, you can see that we actually have 355,000 that's being used this year, and it's all laid out on page 2. Next year, whether we'll most likely use the 355, but if we don't, that's going to carry forward. So, and we don't know what we're going to get, for the following year. So, one of the figures I want to point out is that 66,468. That's a relatively high figure. That's if a choice student gets special ed, like speech, or that they pay you. That's DESE will pay you for those services. So that's pretty high. I mean, I'm usually in the 40,000. So we may not get that next year. So I think the working group came up pretty much with an agreement on the 250,000. And I think
well, and the other piece that Assistant Superintendent Hanscom just reminded when we talked about it in the working group was DCF now has quite a strong ability to sort of direct student placements and services, and we don't have as much of a say in that.
They have programmatic responsibility for students in their custody, So they could say, and have in Mashpee, said that a student needs residential placement that is, and we have absolutely no way to say no to that, even if we as educators don't believe it's the best. So I'm gonna get on my soapbox a little about that, because I think it's wrong, but it is a fiscal reality that we cannot anticipate.
And we had some, if I was going to segue off Paul, and, that's why I do disagree a little bit with what Chris said, and I couldn't misunderstood it. I mean, I think that the $250,000 floor needs to be inviolate. I mean, it's the only, by adding that extra variable, right now it's a known, right? We know it's $250,000. Because of the changes that we can expect, like you were talking about with the special education, school choice funds, if we have extra funds at the end of the year that get rolled into the next year, or the opposite, where we spend every penny and maybe have to dip into the $250,000,
Right.
the next year the expectation would be, because that's our floor, that we're going to build that back up to $250,000 with our existing school choice funds, and then what's left we would build into offset the operational the budget. So it kind of goes both ways, and it maintains our flexibility, because what we're really doing here is losing the majority of our flexibility, right? So CIP, for example, is not a known. We can request it, but we don't know if it's going to happen. We controlled all those pennies before for doing improvements to the schools, and if we had the money, we were able to just go there almost immediately and do something. Now we can't. So that's why I think it's really important that, I mean, if we don't vote on it, at least we can at least all somewhat agree that the $250,000 is the floor. We talked about, out of districts, we talked about, because of the way we do school choice, I know there was some discussions with the town, if I understood correctly, about trying to increase our school choice enrollment. I know that we are hesitant to do that because we use existing seats, but it could be that we're right on we kind of push it up a little bit, we're right on the cusp, and maybe we're being a little bit more aggressive, and then the next year we get an influx of Mashpee students, and now we have to hire a teacher. That would be part of the $250,000 floor, and all the other things that go on with hiring another student. We could have to create a whole new class, so there's, we really thought that $250,000 gives us enough flexibility to be comfortable with basically giving up all the control of our ability to make improvements and such on the budget. So that's my comments.
That makes
So
sense.
is it your understanding then that if our FY whatever expenses were greater than what they are today, that the town manager would fund anything in excess of that, so that we were able to maintain the 250,000 floor, or not?
I don't know
Or
if
is
we
this
got,
Yeah.
kind
Go
of
ahead.
a
No, no, go
one-time?
Well, we discussed in the working group, including with the budget you sent to the town manager, a letter that outlines, this is our expectation, this is what we're doing. So for this year, it will be this amount, but no matter what, 250,000 is inviolate, as Jeff said. But including that in writing to the town manager with your budget.
And my understanding was,
But that's not answering the question.
Well, he's not going to promise what he's going to do next
Well,
year or the year
well,
after
I guess
that.
But you
that's what
can
I'm.
say no to the choice at that point.
Well,
or
we could
not.
say that today.
Right.
But we're changing from where we used to be to potentially a different level. And I'm just looking for, what assurance do we have that not next year? He goes, well, I let you have 250 last year, you didn't use it all, so therefore, you need to take it down to whatever.
well, it shouldn't be used, Don.
No,
Right.
he
Yeah,
doesn't,
it
he
should be
knows
carried
that.
over.
Should be carried
No.
over.
Yeah.
We explained it to him that that was the floor, and that would, anything above it, we can have a conversation on.
Yeah.
But, I can't tell, he can, basically, prior to having a conversation with him, he was forcing you to use all your choice money. When he was asking for the $675,000.
Yeah.
So it's either lay off personnel and not provide the education that you people want to provide, or the school district wants to provide, or use your choice money, right down to the penny.
And the way I understood it, Don, is that if we do have to dip in, we have unappropriated expenses that come in, and we have to dip into the 250, that the next budget cycle, we would appropriate school choice money to get that 250 up, and then there'll be a smaller amount
The
available to
offset.
discuss with the town.
The offset would be
That makes
less
sense.
in the next year.
And he agreed to that.
Yeah, he
Well,
understood.
and the thing is, it's
He
going to be.
understood what was going on.
Yeah, he
He
understood.
understood
They
it.
agreed with the
Whether it's a
250K.
guarantee.
But we know that the budget cycle is going to be the budget cycle, and we're going to have this conversation every single year. And we're going to say, hey, next year, we may say we have $475,000 available for school choice to offset the budget. And he might say that's not enough. Well, we need to figure that out.
But I think in good faith, you are making a decision tonight of this is how you
Very
want to operate.
transparent.
This is what you want
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Whatever, you can't control, I'm going to psychoanalyze it.
So why
No,
don't
I'm,
we,
But, so there's no assurance.
why don't we
I'm
do this?
just trying to understand what
I
he
gotcha.
agreed to and didn't agree to.
So why don't we do this then, right? So you did have me right, but I was not thinking the entire piece, right?
Oh, gotcha.
So I was thinking, we're already saying it in the budget, why do we need to say it again? But you made a very good point. So why don't we add it to the next agenda to vote on a potential floor? Right, so
Yeah, cool.
next meeting, we can discuss it more, vote on a potential floor, whatever that number is. If we decide to stick with 250 forever, well, we probably should do 250, because if that's what we vote on in the budget, anyway, if that happens tonight,
Good idea.
we should probably
Good
stay with
idea.
250, but we'll vote on it officially next meeting separately, and then move forward. But I do want to allow George to go back to what he was saying, if he has anything
Before I
else
was
to
so rudely
continue.
interrupted.
Yes.
What I was saying, sorry. We were on something other than the 250K floor. Please.
Yeah, that's pretty much where you ended.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just say, so two things. One is, I don't know however you word your motion for this, you could reference that for FY '20, the floor, because you do have to sort of, you're agreeing to that based on this number that you're taking into account.
Well, and that's the way I was thinking of it, but if we want to kind of separate it.
No, I'm good with what you said. My concern was the fact that you mentioned that we would potentially talk about it next year to change it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we
Well, I
should
think-
start that precedent. I think that
Well,
we.
and that's kind of what I was getting at. So if things, and I don't mean change it by lowering it or whatever, but
Yeah.
because this is a new thing, right? So
Yeah.
we're just coming up with 250, thinking that that's what we need. But we
You
may
might
end up
want
needing more
300,
next year,
right?
you know what I mean? So,
300, yeah.
And I don't think there's
We don't
anything
know.
wrong with next year saying, okay, 250 was potentially too much, or it was too high. I mean,
Yeah.
I know where
One
you're
way or
coming
the
from.
other.
yeah.
so either we have to, if we need to increase it next
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
either we have to vote on it like Patty had suggested, doing that again next year, or voting on it separate again next year.
Mhm.
Either way, if we decide to increase it, we'll have to vote on it again.
Yes.
And that's kind of all I was thinking about.
Concur with that, sir. Yeah.
And that this bottom line appropriation of $22,176,919 is a 3.7% increase over what we received last year from the town.
Yeah, we're gaining a little ground, but that FY '21 is still going to be the,
We have a little projection out there.
yeah.
Well,
We're still kind of kicking it down the road a little bit.
Well, speaking of 21, though, the sheet that you handed out, that's assuming no choice numbers, but we're basically committing to using
Correct,
choice.
because I really don't know what the choice dollar is going to be next year.
Oh, okay.
Because it's going to, we could have some carry forward. Let's say there's let's say we carry forward 100,000. I'll just use that. Then you got the 250 floor, and then we get another 500,000, or 550 with the special ed services piece. So you get 500, you get 650,000. Now, he may say, I'm not going to take all that. So, you know, we could change the floor. Or he might say, I need that, and then the following year, he doesn't need it. You know, I don't know. But he's not going to commit and say, okay, you can, $250,000 is good all the way through, because he
I
doesn't know
wouldn't
what
expect
his
him to.
revenues are gonna be either.
Yeah.
But right now, he understood where we were coming from, which I felt good about. So.
Does anybody else have anything on that?
No, but thanks for pointing that out, Don, because I didn't see that there was no choice money in that number.
Oh, the 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it won't be that bad.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the budget as presented by the superintendent.
All right, if everyone wants a second, then we'll have discussion. So motion by George,
Yeah, second.
second by Jeff. The only thing I was gonna say about that, before, you can always amend it if you want. So if we want to come up with some kind of consensus whether or not we want to add that floor into the motion to keep the 250 as the floor for school choice, or if we want to vote on that separately at next meeting. So you want to do separately? Is anybody opposed doing it separately at next meeting, voting on the floor? No, guess not. All right, well then.
I mean, the budget includes the floor, so.
Because you
I
could
understand.
word
Yeah.
it where you're
Yeah.
acknowledging a
Yeah.
blank floor.
Can I amend your motion then? Do it this way?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I would like to amend the motion that we approve the Mashpee School District Superintendent's budget as the school committee budget for a bottom line of $22,176,919, which includes $538,865 in school choice derived from a floor of $250,000.
Let's go through that.
Say that again.
Oh, sorry. I was just including I was just trying to add everything in there, yeah. So.
I was with you.
Yeah. So I'd like to approve the Mashpee School District.
You're amending.
I'm amending his motion to improve the superintendent's budget as the school committee budget with a bottom line figure of $22,176,919, which includes a budget offset of $538,865 in school choice. That amount which was derived from a floor in school choice of no less than $250,000.
Have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Nicole. All right, does anybody else have any discussion on this budget? Hearing none. Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right, motion passed.
You know why that amendment was so easy, George? Because of the foundation you provided.
All right.
That's your updated narrative, that's now the school committee.
Oh, check it out.
Next on the agenda, we have the report of the business manager, Mr. Funk.
I guess we went through all the finance.
This is more. What's this?
That's the
superintendent.
updated
You
narrative,
just
that
voted
will
the
go to
su-
the town manager.
I mean, that's your school committees.
It's been,
They already printed it? We just
Yep,
voted
yeah.
it.
well, I was optimistic. That's going to
That's
go
some
with.
proactivity right there.
It'll go with a memo from the chair to the town manager.
I was going to give you an edit, but I guess I'll.
She has-
Well, maybe I,
she
well,
has 3 or 4 different copies of it, kind of like the
Yeah,
Super
I got a lot
Bowl,
of
you know, all
versions.
the-
You didn't vote on
Yeah,
the
exactly.
narrative, so you're good. You can modify it.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
Starting with the FY '19 appropriation update, if you have any questions on the budget to actual as of 1/10/2019, and just to, the assistant superintendent kind of led into this, the DCF has a right to start placing people, and we're finding that we're getting students that are placed outside that become special needs that we have to provide transportation for, so, and we're finding this year that there's been a large increase in the McKinney-Vento. So we're watching those particular lines very, very closely. I mean, I think the McKinney-Vento would go over. Now, we budgeted, I believe, $62,000 this year, and we'll surpass that, but we'll cover it from out of district and some of the regular transportation. So
Is this a new law, or is this something that we've recently been affected by, so it's become more of
we're finding there are more cases rather than, is this a new, it's not a new law. It's been around, and we might have to transport a student from Fall River back to Mashpee to go to school.
No, I guess I'm talking more along the DCF.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yes, that is.
'Cause this is, I was gonna say, because this is the first time I've heard about it in 5 years, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's probably about a year and a half, but you're
Yep.
seeing the repercussions of it right now.
Does that include foster children, or?
Yes.
Yes,
So
And are foster children placed by DCF placement or by where the foster parent lives?
it depends.
that is sometimes how it lands they become Mashpee students because DCF places the children with a family in Mashpee that are foster families, and then that's how it all.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry.
I was going to follow up, sorry, Nicole. So could there be a situation, though, where the foster family's in Bourne, but DCF places the child in Mashpee School District, or does that not work that way?
Probably not.
No.
Because we don't have programs that would be
Unique,
unique
okay.
that Bourne would have, typically.
Yeah,
things like
gotcha.
that.
Okay. So what situation then with DCF,
Yeah, no.
just the programmatics you're discussing?
Do you want to, like, so I'll give you an example.
Yeah, yeah.
So, student who's from, let's say, I'm gonna make up a town, like Dennis, right? Gets placed in a foster home in Mashpee, and is in the foster home in Mashpee for 4 days, and then has to leave that foster placement and go to a star vet, let's
Got
say.
it.
And as a result of that, the school IEP team meets and says they need an out-of-district placement. DCF says, we don't, but he was here for 4 days, we own him fiscally, programmatically, we don't, because he was in a foster home in Mashpee for 4 days.
Okay.
That's the most absurd example I've experienced, but it is a true example.
Okay, thank you.
How many students do we have that fall into that category numerically?
I don't, and probably it's small enough that I couldn't talk
So-
about it because it's not a large enough end. If it's less than 20.
It's less than
we-
20?
I said if.
Okay.
It's less than 20 and we
Yes.
can't, but I won't guarantee that it is fewer than
Okay.
20.
All right,
On the McKinney Vento. That's
Yeah.
what you're talking
yeah,
about. But it's
Not the
based
other.
on distance
yeah.
Changes all
all the time.
Oh, my gosh.
That answered my question too, so
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
But we're okay, we're gonna be okay. We'll get through it. We have to. That's kind of the law.
No other choices.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
good.
How's that?
Yeah.
don't have any choices in it,
No plan B?
Plan B, there's no plan B. I see no questions. Moving on to the grants. Again, the assistant superintendent has all the funds on the grants earmarked. It's just a matter of requesting the funds on a monthly basis and using the funds and closing out. I'm currently closing out FY18 grants. The revolving accounts, there's one error there. School to career, we had some purchases for $381, and I showed it as revenue. As far as the school choice on page 38, this is what we have received. And if you look on, I just want to point out on the sheet that we had showing the revenues that are going to be coming in, you'll notice that they changed. They went from 47 to 30, around 36. The DESI sets the figure based on last year's, what we received last year at the end of the year. They usually do their calculation in January. I went back and looked, and they usually start to change their calculation. So I went in, at the time, we had 495,000 this year coming in as far as revenue. So I based what you saw for next year's monies in the choice based on that figure. So
So the change in the receipts is
they
just.
will change it.
Yeah,
Guess you will make the
but
change.
the total is not likely to change, it's just the way they're distributed.
No, it's not going to change, just the way it's going to get distributed.
All right.
So the totals that we're going to receive, which are basing next year's budget on, we're using this year's funds to do next year's. I have gone through those figures, and it's all broken down in that document on the second page. And you can see nothing has been charged to that revolving account because we're taking a different way to handle the choice monies. We're going to back out money at the end of the year so that we don't use, the $355,000. We
Right.
may not need the $355,000. It's too early to tell. So, and in moving forward, we did charge Camp Falcon to choice last year, or this year, this past summer. That's going to change. We're setting up a whole separate payroll piece that we will charge it to the appropriation and then back it out with everything else. And the same thing on the expense, Camp Falcon. So it'll be in the new budget, the FY21 budget that way. Oh, actually, FY20 budget. We'll break it out.
Great.
Any other questions? I have some transfers just to take care of some negative line items. I'll need a vote on this. It's on page 39. Again, it's just to take the minuses. Principals are doing a great job staying within their budgets, the amounts that we give them. So,
Move to approve transfer 19-03.
Motion by George, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by John. Is there any discussion? No? John?
Yes.
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 Yes?
I, just, it's not on the transfer, but when there's a mass public school out of district, that means that that kid was directed to go to a different
No,
public school?
no, it's just a Massachusetts public school. It could be South Shore Collaborative.
Collaboratives are public schools.
Oh,
They're
okay.
public schools.
But you could also tuition a student.
Yeah, I could tuition a
to
student.
Warren
We're
High
looking at-
School If they had a program that
Okay.
did that.
And-
Okay.
And I have talked with the SPED director. There is a possibility that we will be tuitioning to another school.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Thank you.
this is just, if you remember, we used the circuit breaker money, and whatever comes first, and I've explained this to you, at the beginning of the year, that's where we charge it to, and then, things go into negative, and now everything seems, unless we get another, we could get another out of district in the next couple of weeks. They just happen. So that's what that is.
Before we move on to the next items, anybody else have any questions for Paul? All right, thank you,
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, next under signed unfinished business, we have the wellness.
I'm sorry.
He has more.
The four-year
Four-year
plan?
plan.
Oh, yeah, I thought, some of it was covered up above.
Okay.
What I have done is, we have updated this is the working group. We have, this is an update of actually, the 2019 budget that's the budget. The FY 2020, this does show the school committee's budget at 3.72. When we first met with the town manager, we went in and took out all the retirees out of the salaries, put in lower amounts in some cases, most cases, because most of them were higher than what we put back in. And I believe that was $156,000, $152,000 dollars that came out. What we have done, we have moved that forward, so in '21, those people that were retiring in '19 are out of the budget, so that moves forward for '22 and '23. We are now, the working group has said, I'm gonna start to move it out 2 more years. So the 4-year budget plan is why it's a 4-year budget plan, because you just voted FY '20 tonight. So I was a little ahead. I bet that we were gonna get the vote tonight, so I changed it, George.
Okay, way to go.
So we'll start working on moving out 24 and 25 now. And then as we get retirements in 2021, we'll start doing those. So that's the, just to keep you up to date.
And just real quick, I mean,
Yep.
like we said before, this is a living document, and
Yeah.
we had some
Just keep-
discussions. I was unable to make the working group meeting. Thank you, George, for covering. But, speaking to.
We got a lot done.
consumer- I know you did. I'm not there to speak, to talk.
Sorry.
And speaking with the superintendent, one thing that we're going to discuss now is how we adjust our assumptions to match the new way we're doing business. So I expect that this, the 5-year, 4-year plan will change a little bit, and we'll figure out the right assumptions, because we need to include some kind of, we're not going to be able to go through, as I see right now, a budget cycle where we're not asked to offset some amount of school choice. So we need to figure out the appropriate assumption for that, so we can have a real, right now, this is, 6.18%. Yeah, that's level service with no offset, but is that really what we want to use as a realistic?
No.
Yeah, I got it. So I just want to give people a heads up before they start asking questions.
With that being said, too, one suggestion I would make for future documents is, because there's no offset, the percentages are not really apples to apples.
No, they're not.
So
They're not.
if we could just add the percentages for the total budget expenses and salaries as well, so that way, because I'm seeing
yeah.
3.72 and then
Yeah, we could do
6.18.
that. Yeah, we
So
can
that
do
way I
that.
can kind of compare
Yep.
the,
That
before the
I
offset.
just happened to pick them.
No, I get
wanna show
it.
that
And I don't
3%.
expect you to know the percentages right now, but I'm saying in the future, if we
No,
can maybe
I
potentially add that,
can
would be
put
great.
both of them in if you want.
Thank you.
But when we do the salaries, we're actually working with salaries.
Mhm.
So we've moved everybody up. In other words, 21, 22, and 23, we've moved everyone up a step. Now, we haven't settled contracts in 20, I believe 22, and 21, 22, and 23. We haven't settled those contracts, so, but we did move, everybody's moved up a step.
Good.
Any other questions? I just wanted to kind of update.
That's fine.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Nothing?
Are you all right if Mr. Funk leaves the meeting?
Yeah, you did a
Absolutely.
great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
He's going someplace.
You can go celebrate.
Yeah, that's
FY
right.
FY
Oh,
20's
it's
done.
that time
He's
of
going to
year,
catch a
that's right.
plane.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, have fun, Paul. Thank you.
Have a good time.
Safe travels.
Safe
Yes.
trips.
All right, next we have signed and unfinished business, and we have the wellness policy revision, and that is set for a vote.
This was approved by the policy subcommittee.
It was. And you'll notice, I believe your copies are color, so on page 5 of the document, page 44 of the packet, you will see some added wording there. Oh, I missed the one, excuse me, on page 4, which is page 43. It used to just say baked goods. Now it says candy and certain baked goods. Not to throw muffins in is bad, I guess. So that was the one change on page 4. And then on page 5, this was all determined also at the Health Advisory Committee, and this was through the Food Services Director as well. And so that change on page 5. And then on page 6, there's another one that just sort of repeats and is consistent with candy and certain baked goods in the middle of the page. And the rest of the document is the same. We did talk about moving forward that on page 3 where they do that rationale section. We don't have rationales for other policies that we have, so that might be something that down the road, the committee or the revisers might choose to not include. We don't do rationales on most of our policies.
Or update.
Or update, yes.
I move to accept the revised wellness policy.
Second.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, we have a motion by Nicole, second by John. Does anybody else have any questions?
I just had a question, what we consider an unhealthy snack.
Sugar.
Because like, for example, we sell Doritos, do we not?
We do, I believe.
We discussed that this policy is not necessarily aligned with the food regulations set down by the government.
Mhm.
And if we tried to tackle all of that, it was going to
Mm.
be challenging. So because with administration changes, things change as well. So this policy was meant to kind of stand separate from the nutritional guidelines that Mr. Stickley has to follow.
I got it. I mean, it says we will not offer unhealthy snacks for sale, period, in black and white. And then, oh, they are not. They do not make fat-free Doritos. What are you talking about?
No, they don't.
They shouldn't.
This is not any way to disrupt the policy. I'm just curious, reading through this, that one thing I don't know what a healthy snack is, and I think that may be a little subjective.
It
But
is.
I don't believe.
Was that done on
I don't believe
purpose to make
Doritos
it
are healthy.
subjective?
Well, I don't believe that those muffins that we sell for breakfast are healthy, but
They
that,
meet
you
a
know.
federal guideline.
But they're acceptable,
Yeah, gotcha.
you know, so we just,
Appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So-
No.
Yeah.
So it's purposely
It's a very
left
gray area.
to have some kind
Gray.
of.
Very gray.
Yeah, okay.
Purposely left.
All right, anything else on that? No, all right. Don, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes. All right, next we have the draft of the 2019 Family Opinion Survey, and that was done by the Outreach Working Group.
And I was going to give you a slightly updated version based on some input that we had from Dawn, although it may still need some further revisions if we talk about it, so.
So if you have any additional suggestions, we're running a focus group tomorrow afternoon with some parents so that they can take this and make sure that the questions we think we're asking are the ones we're asking. And you'll notice that the base questions haven't changed from last year. So those are the ones that help us baseline our strategic plan. But we added additional questions on chronic absenteeism, social emotional learning, and homework.
And then just to, can I say something?
Yeah.
So the last question in each school section used to say, if you had rated anything as strongly disagree, to expand on it. So we did change, at Dawn's suggestion, at the end of each school section, if you would like to share additional thoughts specific to any of the above questions or topics, please do so here. And please make sure you reference the number. So it might be something that someone wants to expand on that they think is great, or they strongly agree with. So it was trying to not limit them. And then the only other question that Dawn brought up that maybe everyone here has a thought on, if you go to question 16, which is one of the homework questions, it says, do you think it makes more sense to assign homework on a regular basis or only when it is truly needed? Now, this is an asking for a parent opinion, and Dawn's question is, would it ever be assigned if it wasn't truly needed? We were talking about it. There are times when the content may not feel as connected to a student's learning, but sometimes it's the process. There are other reasons behind it, but maybe the question should be worded differently. I don't know what the group thinks.
Well, I agree, Don. I agree with Don said. It may be worded a little differently because it does. I know what you're
Sounds
saying.
like it. Yeah, no, I know.
Because,
So,
you know, but.
We
So
might
what
need
we-
to rework that one.
We
Maybe
took it
the-
from the attendance where I feel like, we try not to mess with the questions that were vetted already.
Right.
But all
right,
of
it
us, I
came
think,
from Alfie
felt
Cohn.
like this one was
Yeah.
tricky, but we wanted to get at what I was saying is like, there is homework that's assigned for math that's not necessarily needed for a child to really excel in math, but their executive function skills are challenged as a result of it by putting the paper in the folder, bringing the folder home, opening the folder, taking I don't know if any of you have kids, but I'm describing a
Even
night in my
something
house.
as simple as changing the word from needed to relevant might be.
But even that, I think we have to reword
Yeah.
it.
And so whether it's here or maybe tomorrow night's focus group of
Yeah.
parents could help us.
So what are we really asking?
Yeah.
What do we really want from this question? So do we want them to have homework every single day, or periodically as
Right.
necessary for the
Is it the ritual
curriculum?
of the homework
Yeah.
process? What did you say?
You're getting at what we're asking.
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. Is it a regular thing regardless, or is it to supplement the curriculum?
Yeah, I said as periodically as relevant to the curriculum.
Homework to teach
I read up the thesaurus.
If we only had a teacher here.
routine
Oh, she agrees with the organization piece.
Can you think of the kid I was describing, by the way, as I was speaking statistically?
I was thinking, I was having a nightmare from my own home trying to.
Well, yes, exactly. So if we ask something about regular homework to teach routines and organization or something versus relevant, always has to be relevant content or something. I think I know
Yeah,
what
I'm
you're
talking about
saying.
that.
Mhm.
Are you guys okay with us like messing around with it with Nicole and the
Yes.
parents tomorrow?
See,
and fixing it?
I would think the more relevant question to ask a parent is, do you want the student to do homework at home or have it all done during school? And they don't have to bring anything home. And I think it will depend upon the grade, what that response would be.
I think it would be called something different, though, if that were the plan.
Well, then it would be something
in
different.
some
but to
cases-
ask them, does it make sense to do it, on a regular basis or only when truly needed?
Yeah, but if we change that, because honestly, I don't want to ask them a question that I don't want that like, if, let's say 80% of the families say, no, we shouldn't have any homework, but we as educators feel like there are times when we really need to, or whatever, it's sort of, then why did you bother to ask me?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
That I
Oh, right,
really-
and then, but that's the way the question's worded right now, is why are you asking me?
I
Are you
think we
telling me-
have, I think we have consensus that we're going to change the
We're gonna
question.
fix-
Yes, no, I think you're right on that.
And it appears 3 places, so we will fix it in all 3 places. It's each school.
The only thing that leapt out at me, I went back and looked at my notes from our meeting, the outreach committee meeting, and I thought for this lead-in for chronic absences, I thought we deleted that first sentence as kind of preachy. Like the second sentence, I think.
Oh, maybe, it's pink, it's pink.
The pink questions.
I'll look back, and yes, I
Yeah, I think
somewhat remember that.
I just remember we were trying to keep the lead-ins pretty tight, and we thought
We
that
wanted to
sentence.
remain neutral.
That,
I think so, too.
yeah.
Starting that section with research findings
Yeah.
indicate.
So
Although
remind me again
that
when
may
we're
cause people to
hoping to
skip.
get this survey out?
We are hoping to get the survey out by the end of January,
Okay.
preferably after we do the little vetting with the group tomorrow. It's pretty well good to go. It will go electronically with, we thought there would be like a 3-week period before school vacation week. And then that would give a slower time in the world here for the office to do the paper version follow-up to anyone who hadn't responded.
So the
Yes.
reason why I asked, and my thought process on that is, this survey appears to be coming from the committee, which I would believe that would mean we'd need a vote on it.
Well, it came from the committee last year as well.
Yeah,
Did it?
yeah.
When you voted on your goals, your goals, which include.
One of the action steps is the
Okay.
survey.
I'm
I mean, I'll
talking as
go,
I'm
yeah,
thinking.
I mean, I'll go with the consensus of the committee. I'm just thinking out loud, because usually when we have a document that is coming from the committee, from the entire committee, which clearly it says with gratitude and has the entire committee there, typically we vote on it. So,
I agree with you. I mean, if we did it last year, we clearly maybe didn't do it correctly, but we could solve that issue this time. But are we able to do that? When's our next meeting?
well, that's why I
Six.
asked when
Yeah.
we
No,
were
six,
looking to
that
put
one.
this out, so.
Yeah, we had hoped,
What's the
our
date now?
plan was.
February 6th?
Yeah.
Our plan was to send it out on the 28th of January, or perhaps even the 25th. And then that would give families 3 weeks of the online survey, which is the protocol we followed last year. And then we would prepare the mail survey, as Patty said, the week of school vacation. So that would go out at the back half of that week. And that is all just to give us results at basically the same time as last year, which was the first meeting in April. Because we won't have anything by March 6th, which is our,
Right.
So, remind me, does the mail go to all parents?
Email or?
the email goes to everyone, all families in the district that we have an email address for. And then if they complete a survey, they are removed from the list. And then and then they get a mail survey follow-up if they have not responded. So if they initiate a survey but don't complete it, they will get a mail survey.
Because we're
It's gonna be changing.
requesting that they identify themselves?
They have a survey ID number assigned to them so that we can track, so we don't mail surveys to people who've already completed their survey.
Okay, so somehow we're identifying the
There's
responses.
There's a protocol that separates the database from the the households. So there's a way to track it, but the data is not, any identifiers are not in the data with the responses. That
we
makes
were-
sense.
We were unprofessionally discussing something while you were speaking. Does anybody have a problem with just changing the front page then? And we can make a comment here that this is part of the Mashpee Public Schools or the school committee goal, is, in line with our goals. We're submitting this thing and just sign it by the leadership as opposed to the school committee, just to prevent us from having to vote on it or violate any open meeting stuff to vote on it now.
Okay, that's fine.
Anybody else have an issue with that, Don?
No, I mean, if we wanted, we could add this. I mean, this is, to me, a minor item that could be added to the agenda if you wanted to vote on it.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I defer to Mr. Santos about that.
So, I'll defer to the chair if he wants to do that.
Why don't we just, does anybody want to make a motion to add it to the agenda then?
So moved.
Wait. So what you're doing with that is you're delaying.
No, we're adding it to the
adding it
agenda
to
to vote
tonight's
right
agenda.
now.
Oh, okay.
I know, I was going that
This
way
is
too,
it.
Nicole.
This is
Perfect.
tonight.
I'm like, wait.
Anybody want to make a motion to add it to the March agenda?
Yeah, to the March.
All right, so George sent
Table
me a
that.
motion to add it to tonight's
So I
agenda.
made it.
And
Who's first,
I'll
Oh.
second.
second.
seconded by Nicole. All right, any discussion other than Nicole? Don?
Yes.
So can I just reword the motion, though?
Motion to add to the agenda a vote regarding the 2019 Public School Annual Family Opinion Survey.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay. now
All
it's on
right,
the
so we'll
agenda.
add that to the agenda, and now we just need a vote.
I move to approve the 2019 Mashpee Public Schools Annual Family Opinion Survey with edits.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by George. Any discussion? Don?
I'm good. Yes.
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 And yes. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, now that we're all set with that, we will move on to the draft of the school committee handbook.
Do you want me to start? So the efficiency and effectiveness working group met, and we reviewed, or we worked on pages 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. You've already looked at the first section. I know they're included. There should only be one more section. And I don't know if you've all looked at it ahead of time. So you have a section on professional development. You have and I do have a slightly updated page 11 based on, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So on page 7, it's professional development, representative opportunities, and being an effective committee member goes from page 7 to 8. On page 8, there's a section on the budget. Then on page 9, it goes into a section on the Mashpee Charter that's taken right out of the charter language. Moving on, page 9, there is a section on the superintendent evaluation. Page 10 talks about negotiations. And then you have a new page 11, which is exactly the same as what you have in front of you, except when you get down to hiring responsibilities on the new sheet. And I don't know if we have all of the changes, John, and we have the first one from your first email, but it used to say the school committee is responsible for appointing the following personnel, and it lists superintendent and several other positions. The new wording is the school committee is responsible for appointing the superintendent. The school committee shall also appoint the following positions upon the recommendation of the superintendent. And you have assistant superintendent, school business administrator, director of special ed, school nurses, school physician, and district legal counsel. And the rest of that wording is the same. But, right, ed reform. And then the last question that isn't reflected in this change for Mr. Myers is he wanted to add the following sentence from policy GDB to page 11. The school committee will set the rates of pay for personnel not covered by collective bargaining agreements.
Is it our hiring responsibility?
It would be under, well, it could be under negotiation, let me see under that
So I do
page.
remember discussing that at the meeting, and we did add something that said, 'cause I remember actually I brought it up, that said, based on the superintendent's recommendation for non-union personnel.
Mhm.
So let me, I have to get, excuse me?
It's on page 12.
Oh, it might be. I forget exactly the wording we used, I'll have to look at it, but I do remember discussing that.
I think the only other wording under the collective bargaining section, it just says the remainder of district employees have individual contracts. The superintendent is responsible for recommending contract changes to the school committee for approval.
Mm.
So to me, that implies that a rate of pay is in there. I think we did talk about that
Because we
sentence.
did, we definitely did
Right.
talk about it.
Yeah, I just felt that it should be explicit, so that if someone was reading it in the future, they knew exactly what their responsibilities were.
They do
I
not.
don't want to ask.
They do
Can I
not.
ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. The way I interpret your language, though, is that those people would negotiate with the committee, because the rate of pay is set through negotiation with these individuals and the superintendent. So whether it gets approved or not, that's, the superintendent brings it
Mhm.
and you approve it. But the way you wrote, it just read that, and that would just change things. Also, the school nurses are in a
Unit A.
unit.
Well, I just lifted the language from our policy, so, and copied and pasted.
Which is beyond reproach,
Clearly, yes,
Right? So,
right, fellow policy members?
Absolutely.
Now it is.
I did not wordsmith that. That's verbatim from our
See, I told you
policy.
people were going to quote that stuff, Chris.
we should have paid more attention.
I
No.
did-
I mean, I don't mind
did
splitting,
doubt you.
I'm comfortable with that verbiage. I understand where Don's coming from. I would just remove that whole this last paragraph from under collective bargaining.
This one,
Yeah.
the remainder of district employees.
Yeah, and put that in, if you want to put under, like a heading of non-union employees or something like that, so it's
That's
very.
exactly what it is. That's what we added.
Oh,
Yes,
is what it was?
If we
Oh,
replace
okay.
that, then yeah, then we'd have to just replace that. Because that is what we added, to kind of cover that. Superintendent is responsible for recommending
Right, we
contract
put that
changes.
sentence.
Yes.
Right. Right, so what are we doing?
We, I mean, we don't have to make a
We're gonna-
decision.
Yeah, this is
No,
a,
no, I was
this is
just
a
making
living
a comment.
document.
Yeah.
So.
So just keep that in mind. Obviously, if you have any changes, continue to email
Okay.
Patty with those changes. She'll bring them back to the Effective and Efficiency Committee.
Efficiency and
Oh.
effectiveness.
Efficiency
That
and
committee,
effectiveness.
yes.
Working group.
Working group.
Say ED.
Words are not my thing tonight. And then, obviously, anything else, we'll bring it back to the committee, because we'll have at least one more section to bring back, and then the committee will have to look over the entire thing, make any other changes, and then vote on it, so.
Sweet.
I also sent a note to Patty in regard to that last sentence on page 11. Because in a conversation that I had today with Mask, I came away with a slightly different understanding in regard to how that would work. And that the committee does have some authority, but not unilateral authority when it comes to renewing of contracts.
So I'm looking at the law, just because I read your thing.
Yeah.
I just don't see that, so it doesn't refer to that at all in the law. So do you know, did Tracy give you the law?
I can send you
All right, because I'm looking at.
the outline.
Yeah,
that
and it
she's-
says that hiring, but there's nothing about renewing contracts listed under school committee. So anyway, that was just my question that I had for you before you.
Yeah,
So the next, so this is, we're still not at like, is this cumulatively the first read? So next meeting, we'll
Kinda
get the
like
third
policy.
chunk,
Uh-huh.
and then the meeting after that, we'll
You'll get the
approve
whole booklet
thing.
for the final
Absolutely.
digesting
So we'll,
after the next meeting.
so, and then will we vote to approve it then?
March.
Or do we have one meeting where we have the whole thing?
You can approve it second read if we're comfortable.
Yeah, I feel
It'd
like.
be on the committee to decide
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I feel like if you get the next section at the next meeting, then you have a month to then look at the whole document.
Right. That's what
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Yep.
Okay.
the other question that I had, and I didn't send this to you in advance, was just trying to understand the, what was it, the ability of a committee person to expend up to $1,000 without committee approval.
Where is that?
Where did I just see that?
Oh, it's on page 7.
Page 7. Yes. Any event where the cost of the member is expected to be greater than $1,000 must be approved by the school committee. So if
That's
it's-
under professional development, though.
professional.
Yeah, just to clarify that, that is not the member spending money. That is,
PD.
it is any cost associated with a member doing something.
Right, but that's,
No, I just want, just to clarify, because I know, we are live on TV and whoever else is
Yeah.
here, but it's not direct spending of, it's if we are going to some scheduled professional development and the district is paying for it, for us to go, then anything over $1,000.
My understanding of that, Don, was like when we did our retreat, we talk about it, we say what the date is.
right.
Patty and goes off and does her magic, and it's done and we do it. If the final bill or the anticipated bill for that retreat was more than $1,000 per member, we would have to come to as a full committee and vote to approve to have that retreat. That's the way I read that.
Absolutely.
Read that.
Or if you wanted to go to something in Washington DC, and the total cost for you alone
Yeah,
to
right,
go was
right,
more
right,
than
right, right.
1,000, you'd want to talk about that.
Actually, we did that, actually, for, it was a DC, it was a legislative
Yes.
PD, but I did
But
not
if you
go.
want to go
didn't
to
go.
Marlboro and it's $400 for somebody to go to the new member thing. or
Doesn't have to
whatever,
be on our
You don't have to
agenda.
vote for that.
Yeah.
The
It's gonna be
committee doesn't have to
agenda-driven.
approve.
No.
Okay. I just, $1,000 represents at least 10% of the school committee
PD budget.
PD budget.
Yeah. Is it the amount that's bugging you? I think it may be a little high, but.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I think we could use past precedent to say that 90% of our travel is local to Massachusetts and would never typically exceed that, so.
right, but I'm.
But as a
forward-
committee,
this
you
is forward-
could lower it to 500 if you want to really know
If anybody
who's
has
doing what.
recommendations on an
Yeah.
amount,
So,
feel free to email them to Patty.
Yeah, this is your handbook.
I was gonna say, this is also protocol too, so we
Yeah.
gotta be careful putting
And-
policy in a protocol book.
Yeah.
I have what we've spent, because I track your money. So I would want your joint conference, whatever that was gonna cost, I'd probably want it to be less than that, because you don't have to vote for who's going to the joint, like, that's.
That's what I was getting at.
So if I can give you that information before the next effective,
Mhm.
maybe we go just a little bit higher than
Maybe
that, which
750.
tends to be the most expensive local thing we do, because it's 3 days or however many days. What do you think about that, Don?
I'm all for transparency, so I don't have a problem with voting on $5.
No, I know you don't. Okay. so
Particularly if it involves you, Hope.
Me?
But,
$5?
no. I just think there needs to, the same requirement that we put in place for everyone else in the district should apply to ourselves.
And you
Well,
don't think it
so-
does right now?
yeah, everyone else's is approved all the way up the line.
Right,
Yeah.
there's an approval process, right?
Well, I think maybe what's missing is that approval process from I mean, because typically you make us aware of an opportunity and solicit interest. One of us might say, yes, we want to do that. Then we determine the cost, and if it were, I just don't, I think we have a check in place. It's not like I can decide I'm going to go do something without discussing it with any of you or Patty.
I agree with this committee,
Oh, but,
but down,
yeah.
but down the road,
Yeah.
someone's gonna look at this and say, you know, I don't
I'm
need this.
allowed to do this, yeah.
Right.
Right,
It's gonna
this says I can do this,
$100,000.
so, I'm just, you know.
Before the next meeting or during the next meeting that we have, might be worth looking at the policy too, because there might already be something in the policy that says all PD has to be approved.
In advance.
Yeah, so I
Could
don't
be.
know off the top of my head, but that might be in there, and that
Look
might
it
be a
up.
good check.
I'm trying.
So, I don't need that
Very
information
nice.
right
Yeah.
now, but we'll just move on. Does anybody else
It
have
is
anything on that? before we
Very
move on?
sortable, it's quick.
Nope.
New business.
Good stuff, Don.
All right. Close that out, let's move on to new business, and we have minimum wage rate change, and Mr. DeBoer is going to speak on that.
Yes, so in the packet, you'll see that the minimum wage has gone up to $12 an hour effective January 1 of 2019. And interestingly enough, the minimum wage law does not apply to municipalities, but because the town of Mashpee is choosing to ensure their employees are all set, and we would as well. So what it affects is food services step 1 employee currently receives $11.63 an hour, that will go to $12. And then the unlicensed substitutes currently receive $80 a day, that will go to $84. And they work a 7-hour day. And we've gone back to make sure that that was retroactive to January 1. Okay?
All right. All right, so next we have the Mashpee Middle High School robotics field trip to Rhode Island. I'll let Patty speak more on that, but it is going to require a vote because it's out of state.
That's right. You have a memo in there from Amanda Howe. The robotics students would like to attend a qualifying robotics competition in Situate, Rhode Island. The competition is on February 3rd and is the only additional remaining qualifying competition that has open slots for students to try to advance to the New England Championship in Worcester, which is in March. And then there's the rest of that, so she's seeking permission to take the students out of state. And I don't know if you followed, they did quite well as a team. There's an all-girls team, there's a middle school team, and then there's like a combined team. And one of the teams, I think it's the high school team, has already qualified for the New England Championship, so hopefully.
I move to approve this request.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by George.
Isn't Situate like a foot away from the Massachusetts line anyway?
I don't really know Rhode Island that
Yeah, it's very, very
Yeah,
close.
Situate, let me see that.
You're gonna make me Google the map.
I grew up in Rhode Island.
I didn't even know
couldn't
there
think
was,
of
I know there's a
60
Situate,
miles
Mass, I
around.
didn't know there was a Situate, Rhode Island.
81
Yeah.
way,
Could make
not
things
that far down.
easy.
I guess the only thing I would ask about is the ratio of students to one teacher, no chaperones.
No, there's
There's one
a
chaperone.
lot of parent
Yeah.
chaperones that go. She
Okay.
doesn't
Well,
show
I'm just going
that.
by the sheet, it just
Right.
says NA.
No, I'm surprised
Okay.
she said NA, but I know at the one that they just recently competed in, she was very grateful. It's quite a strong parent following.
Okay, good.
Moncton don't ride the bus. That's-
Yeah, they don't ride the bus, they
that's
drive
maybe why she
themselves.
just-
Oh, okay.
She's the only one,
Okay.
probably driving the van.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't just going to be her and 18 students.
No.
That'd be-
In the letter, she says she's got a parent that's going, and,
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking of Situate, Mass. That's
Yeah,
fine.
me too.
Yeah, is it, yeah,
Anyone else have anything that?
So she's driving the van?
most likely.
All right, if there's nothing else. Don, how do you vote?
We have a motion?
yeah.
Yes.
In a second, to
Yes.
approve. Yes.
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 Yes? All right, motion passed. All right, moving on, we have tuition waivers, looks like 3 of them.
Right, so the first one, which is a grade 12 student, he has been in Mashpee quite a long time. They recently bought a new house in Plymouth, and he would like to attend until graduation. And there are no choice seats left currently. I was just going to give this out as an extra. This is our current status of choice for,
Sorry.
just as a
I'm
reference.
looking for your, your searchable policies.
And this was just, this coincides with also the multi-year plan. It gives you an idea of seniors, but we don't have any spots in 12th grade. Do you want to do these all together or individually? Maybe individually.
I prefer to do them individually,
let's do
just
that.
in case for whatever reason somebody wants to vote differently on any grade level.
Yep.
All right, so in that case, you need a motion for.
Yeah, move to
BP.
approve the tuition waiver for BP grade 12.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by George. Any discussion? Don?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, that passes. All right, so then we'll move on to
Okay, so
00.
similar situation for 00 in grade 9. This student has been with us for quite a while, and they just moved to Sandwich. And she would have a problem if her child, the child would have a problem if she had to leave the Mashpee school. She's been here since preschool. So she would be recommended to apply for school choice when we open it up for next year.
Good.
The waivers for this year only.
The tuition waiver is only for this year.
Yes.
Mhm. And usually, it'll say in the letter, not to the 12th grader, but to anyone else, that when the window opens, they should apply.
And just to get on the record, all tuition waivers that we approve are just for the current school year.
That's correct.
I move to approve a tuition waiver for 00, grade 9.
Motion by Nicole. Is there a second? Second by George. Discussion? Don?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Okay, so the last one is a little bit of an odd one. It is for a student in pre-K. I'm going to read you the note. Yeah. To whom it may concern, I'm requesting my 3 children be able to stay in Mashpee schools where they have been for the last 3 years, the older ones. On February 1st, we will be moving to Bourne because our landlord is selling her home that we currently rent. I have tried for 9 months to find an affordable place in the Mashpee area with no luck, so had to look outside of the town. I'm hoping you take my request into consideration. The move will be hard enough without them having to leave behind their schools and friends. So the other 2 are sliding into choice because we have spots. We don't have choice in preschool, so that's a little bit different of a situation. So, but the other 2 children will still be here.
Which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to vote on it separately, because I
Yes, know.
think
Yes,
it's a different situation.
definitely.
I guess one of the questions I would have is, if we don't have choice, typically, and I wish Paul was here to answer this question, typically it doesn't cost the district any money.
Oh, Jesus.
okay, George?
Yep.
We have to get a new system for you.
I'm short now.
Yeah.
Jesus.
You all right, Julie?
Wheelchairs.
No, he needs a different,
We'll get a chair, Pat.
we'll get
I'll buy a
that
chair.
before tomorrow. I mean, before the next meeting
All
tomorrow.
right, good?
No,
Hi, folks.
Please have that edited
You
out.
elected
Yeah,
me.
I'm back.
Focus all up.
I want a copy of that, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you all right? You all
Be on
right?
YouTube.
I'm fine.
it's already a meme.
Yeah.
It's
It's gone viral already.
All righty.
Oh,
So you were saying, Chris?
Yes.
What was I saying? Oh,
Did I interrupt you?
It
by
doesn't cost us any money.
will it cost, thank you. That's what I was getting at. So with all the other tuition waivers, it doesn't cost us any money for to maintain that student for the rest of the school year. So what I'm being told is, by approving this, it would not incur any additional or any charges to our budget.
Well,
at
he's
all.
already in a
He's already in
preschool
a spot.
slot. And
Mhm.
this year, we were careful to make sure that, particularly our 4-year-olds, that there were ample spaces,
Mhm.
where in the previous year, there had been some excluded. So I feel that he would not be precluding someone else from sliding into his spot if he remained the rest of the year.
Okay. So no budget impact whatsoever, and obviously.
No.
Okay.
I move to approve a tuition waiver for JP in grade pre-K.
For
Second.
this year.
Motion by Nicole, second by George. Does anybody else have any
Yeah,
questions,
so
comments?
did we turn away people for pre-K this year?
No, but last year, for the 4-year-old
Yeah.
program,
But we didn't this year, so we're,
no, we restructured so that we had ample.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Good question. All right, does anybody else have anything? All right, Don?
Yes.
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 And yes. Motion passes. All right, that's it for that. Next, items chair did not reasonably know in advance. I don't believe we have any.
Could I,
Wait.
add something in, oh, what?
Does Mary have something to say?
No, she's just here to
Just sitting, oh, okay.
be an audience.
Yeah,
Um,
Be an audience, thank you.
diligent president.
Just two things that I, or maybe, yeah, two things I wanted. This is a draft, and it wasn't in the packet, but just for you to ponder for school committee meetings for next year. So this is just a handout for you to play with. It'll be on the agenda for next time for you to play with. The other handout I have is related to, a decision has been made about making up the Quashnet School Day. And I have a piece of paper for you. I was going to read it, if you want me to.
Absolutely, please.
So everyone knows that the Quashnet School had some issues with gas, natural gas and carbon monoxide leaks Tuesday, December 11th, and Wednesday, December 12th. Those were partial days, but then the building remained closed on Thursday, December 13th for monitoring. On December 17th, I contacted the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to request a waiver of the December 13th school day. Our request for a waiver was declined based on DESI's longstanding policy that all days lost to health, weather, or safety emergencies between the first day of school and March 31st must be made up to ensure a 180-day school year. Because many students and many staff members were at the Mashpee Middle High School on both December 11th and 12th, past 11:30 a.m., these days are counting in our 180. So the one day that has to be made up is December 13th. So if we have no snow days, Tuesday, June 18th is already our last day of school in Mashpee. So it will be a half day for all students, MMHS, QS, and KCC, as originally scheduled. This will be the last day, however, for students who attend MMHS and KCC. And then it's a full workday for staff members, as originally scheduled. And then Wednesday, June 19th, will be a half day for students who attend Quashnet and a full workday for Quashnet staff members.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Any other surprises?
I'm seated.
I was going to do one more thing about Quash.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this was day 3 of another odor in the Quashnet school. It originally started as sort of a dirty diaper smell, but it's basically a very bad bathroom smell. And I was just going to read an email from Catherine Laurent. So it's, the first day, and they came and attended, couldn't figure it out. The second day, which was yesterday, Board of Health came, said it was nothing to worry about. And also the fire department came because they were checking for gas levels. But apparently, like methane gas has to have a much stronger concentration to be picked up on their monitor. So it came back today pretty strong. And the architect was here in the building, and his thoughts were that there is a crack in one of the vent pipes, as Mary Kate calls them, the stink pipes. So I'm going to read. So they came today and said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go up on the roof, pour water down the vent pipes, track it, see what comes out. But they weren't going to do it today. I did have a conversation with the town manager. He came over here at 3. He concurred with the odor, and they were doing the test tonight.
Thank you, Rodney.
But yes, thank you, Town Manager Collins. But if there was something more to it, it wasn't going to obviously be fixed tonight. So I'm going to read you this, which was from Catherine at 4:51, the DPW director. DPW is still working at QS to identify and address the above. Earlier this afternoon, an inspection of the vent pipes on the roof found some containing debris, tennis balls, ballast stone, insulation. The vents above the affected area were cleared. We will work with the general contractor over the next several days to check and clear the remaining ones. Again, focusing on the affected area, DPW has begun water testing the vent pipes for cracks. An issue was detected in the kitchen area, the vent for the dishwasher. Upon cutting the ceiling, it is a solid ceiling, not suspended ceiling tiles. DPW found the vent pipe severely corroded. DPW is removing the pipe, but in all likelihood, a plumber will be needed tomorrow to replace it. The dishwasher will be out of order, until the pipe is replaced, so lunch will have to be a paper service. We will notify the food services director. DPW will finish testing the other vent pipes in the affected area, but based on where the odor was originating, calf kitchen, and when it was first detected after lunches, this hopefully is the source. Not so super confident in that, but because I guess once it gets in the vent system, it goes everywhere. And hopefully that may be the resolution. But
Is it isolated to a particular section of the
it's
school?
stronger in the, no, but it's very much stronger in the calf area, so.
I'm glad they're gonna clean out we talked about that, about the plug vents too. Be interested to see if that helps.
Tennis balls?
Well, the tennis court's right
That's a
there.
heck of a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that's how that landed there, but
I would say that's interesting.
anyway,
Personal observation.
that is all my other.
Anything else?
I'm sending out the policies on
Did we?
No, I was just curious, have we discussed this?
Got brought up once.
I think we put it on your upcoming dates to know when it was, but I don't know that I don't know if they signed up for the national conference.
Because I know we
Did you
briefly
get an email
discussed
from
when
Gail?
the.
No, you know what you only got from Gail was the legislative gathering in February, so.
I thought we had some discussion about when the early bird ended, and I don't remember if we,
Well, isn't the event itself like in March?
yeah, but I think the early bird's like this month.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it say?
Well, there's a website
course
for it
not.
too, so.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would
I was just curious if we
encourage
talked
everybody
Oh,
to.
no, it's registered before January 11th and safe.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, then.
I'm so glad that they sent this out today. So, perfect.
Well, then everybody should at least look at that, look at the website or whatever, and get back to Gail and, decide on. what
It's
we're
in
gonna do
Philadelphia.
there. Yeah.
Whiz wit.
Fine.
Yeah.
One question. Next meeting, we are voting on the 250K. Is that an item on the agenda?
It is not, we just included that in the budget vote.
Okay.
That's what the amendment was that Jeff had made.
Okay, and then another issue that came up at the finance working group that should be discussed at some point in time is the possibility of increasing the number of students allowed into pre-K, which would
No.
cause a change to the overall budget in the out years.
No, I thought it was increasing choice in K.
No.
You don't have choice in pre-K. It's pre-
Increasing the size of pre-K. Did I say choice? Sorry. It's increasing the size of pre-K. On the idea that if you've got them at that level, that they will continue through the system.
Do you have
Pretty sure it
another
was K.
finance meeting between now and the next meeting? Because then we can just have it added to the budget, added to the agenda.
We do have a meeting.
29th?
Something like that.
29th?
So you have a meeting, if you
We-
talk it out then, and if
Occasionally.
you decide, then we'll add it to the agenda,
Okay.
if that's what it is.
Okay.
Because there's no school choice for pre-K.
No.
We'll add it to the agenda
No,
based
we-
on what
Yeah.
they discussed.
What we talked about was, if you had a good handle on the numbers that you expect for K, that is an opportunity where we always have a lot of applicants. And the thought is, yes, it's advantageous compared to what other offerings are in other towns, but once you get them, the likelihood of them staying, because they'll have such a positive experience, is good.
Okay.
So that was, I recall.
I know there was a discussion, but.
Right, but it was K, I think.
We'll add it if it
It was
needs.
the younger
If
group.
it needs to be added.
It was somebody at Coombs.
We'll get it added.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else have anything before?
I
we-
move to
Yeah.
adjourn.
Hold
Oh.
on.
Whoops. How dare you.
So, yeah, Mr. Chairman, can we add a brief executive session on the agenda for the next meeting for the negotiation subcommittee to update the committee?
Absolutely. Does anybody right now foresee any reason they may not be at the next meeting? No? Okay, we'll just add it then.
Is that what you need?
15 minutes should be
Yeah.
Okay.
sufficient.
Anything else?
That's it?
All right.
Did you
George
have
has a-
something, Nicole? You had a book in front of you.
Oh, I'll just leave this on our table. It's just the annual report for the collaborative, so I'll just put it on the school committee table for you guys.
Thank you. Well, George has a statement.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Second by Nicole. Don?
Yes.
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 And yes, thank you.
Fantastic.